This is Brew Crime, a craft beer and true crime podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Beck.
And we're back for the first official episode that isn't our pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a couple weeks for sure. Are you out of province?
Yep, went back home for a family visit.
Back to Ontario.
Yep.
Sounds like a fun trip.
It was, it was probably the best trip I've had back home since I moved here. So yeah, it was great. It was hot, which was still nice. It was like 46 degrees on Canada today. It was nice.
All right, so this episode, I guess the theme is on the road again.
Yep.
So it's true crime events that took place out on the highways, out on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for this theme, we needed a song, because every good road trip has a song. So I thought I'm going to take some lyrics from Bob Seger's Turn the Page. So here it is. On a long and lonesome highway east of Omaha, you can listen to the engine moaning out its one-note song. You can think about the woman or the girl you knew the night before. But your thoughts will soon be wandering the way they always do when you're riding 16 hours and there's nothing much to do and you don't feel much like riding. You just wish the trip was through. The first story, you can kind of give a teaser of what it's going to be, and then we'll do the beer pairing.
Sure. I actually gave it a title. It's called Blondes Have More Fun, and by fun I mean blood on their hands. The Jodi Arias story.
Nice. All right, so the beer I've chosen to pair with this is from Iron Road Brewing. It's in Kamloops, BC. This is their East India Porter. So this East India Porter is a traditional recipe with tasting notes of dark chocolate, coffee beans, roasty notes, and some hops bitterness. It's 4.2% alcohol and 60 IBU. It's actually a fairly new brewery, but I thought it was kind of fitting. You know, Iron Road. It's very deep black. I don't really see any light through it. Nice sort of tan head on it.
Oh yeah, that
Smells kind of roasty. A little bit of chocolate, kind of earthy. Yeah, it's kind of a roasty, burnt bit of chocolate. It's definitely bitterness. It's kind of dry. It's actually my first beer from Iron Road Brewing.
I don't know why, but whenever there's beers this dark, I always, if they're also effervescent, I'm surprised. Like, I expect them to be creamy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's really good.
And it sounds like a bit of a dark story, so
yeah,
pairs well.
So the story that I chose is the Jodi Arias story. And I'm just going to start with a bit of background from the two key people in the story. So Travis Alexander was born July 28th, 1997. He had a difficult early childhood. Both of his parents were drug addicts. At the age of 11, Travis moved in with his paternal grandparents, who introduced him to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm just going to say LDS from now on.
Probably a good idea.
Or continue to trip over my tongue. After his father died in July 1997, his 7 siblings were also taken in by their paternal grandparents. Travis was a salesman and motivational speaker for prepaid legal services, PPL. Jodi Arias, born July 9th, 1980. Jodi Arias was born July 9th, 1980. According to Jodi, starting when she was 7 years old, she was a victim of child abuse. She claimed that her parents beat her with belts and wooden spoons. She dropped out of high school in grade 11, but later got her GED. She started working for PPL in February 2006. Jodi met Travis in September 2006 at a PPL conference in Las Vegas. Their sexual relationship started a week later, even though Jodi was living with a longtime boyfriend at the time.
That always goes well.
Yeah, always a good idea. Jodi converted to Travis's Mormon faith and was baptized into the LDS Church in November 2006 to be closer to Travis, who was a devout Mormon. I thought his religious devotion was an odd tidbit to include, but it was mentioned on multiple sites. Like, I was doing the research and it just kept mentioning what a devout Mormon he was. And I thought maybe I was remembering some of the Mormon basic rules wrong, but I wasn't. I found quote, the complete list of things Mormons can't do on a website called MormonMessenger.com, and literally the first thing on the list is no sex before marriage and complete fidelity after marriage.
Yeah. I think most churches have that rule.
Yeah. So, honestly, that just made me more confused, because how do they know which wife to be faithful to? To be fair, the author of this list also had a list of myths, common myths about Mormonism, and amongst them was that Mormons are polygamists, and there was a lot of contradictory information about that, but officially LDS stopped allowing it in 1904, with punishment being excommunication. So,
That actually sounds like a good thing.
yeah. But further down that same list was, quote, no cigarettes, alcohol, coffee, or tobacco. And I've definitely never heard this. And they must really hate coffee because it was on that same line twice. Don't hate coffee. I need coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
So the worst rule on their list was no foul language.
Fuck.
But I bet you thought I was going to say that the worst rule is that they don't allow gay marriage. But seriously, that's like, fuck them for not allowing gay marriage. But basically their standpoint is, it's totally fine if you're queer. We still love you. Don't get married, though, because you'll be excommunicated. And also no sex before marriage, so sorry about it. Oh, yeah, one more thing. Dating's really just about courting until you get married, so none for you. Okay, great, and if you're mad about it, don't swear, because that's a no. They may as well say, we love you, but only if you're super miserable. But don't kill yourself, because murder is a sin. Love you.
That's about right. It's terrible.
When
but again, that sounds like most.
I know. And it's just, it's so hypocritical, and that's like, my opinion, obviously, but that's like the theme for religions, is hypocrisy.
Yep.
So when I was researching, like, LDS, I found a picture of, this is what they titled this picture, an LGBT pride flag in front of the Salt Lake City LDS Temple. Here it is here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's clearly one of those tiny, like, $5 flags that you can get wherever.
Yeah, might be less.
And someone is just holding it in front, slightly in front of their camera, and standing nearish the temple. And it in no way gives their statement that they accept queers any credence.
No.
Like, at all. The pictorial equivalent of saying, oh, I'm not bothered that you're queer. I know a gay guy. Anyway.
I think everyone's heard that.
Unrelated to my story, but don't get me started.
Tangents are good.
On religion. My point is that how devout was he really if they were having sex a week after they met?
That sounds about like a lot of devout
I know.
Christians and stuff.
Like, just be honest.
Look how many young kids have, or high school students have kids at Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic high school, and we had the highest pregnancy rate of the 4 high schools in my city. People are, and they're just like, well, we're not allowed to use condoms. And it's like, yeah, you're not allowed to have sex either. So, you know.
Let's pick the one rule that doesn't make sense. And
anyway, yeah, back to Jodi. In February 2007, Jodi moved to Mesa, Arizona to be with Travis. And only 5 months later, in June 2007, their relationship ended, but they continued to have periodic sexual encounters. Right, super devout. Anyway, Jodi started stalking Travis, going as far as sending him and the women he was dating threatening emails. In spite of this, the two continued their sexual relationship and traveled together in March 2008, because being threatened and having the people you're dating threatened is such a turn on.
yeah, of course.
So for sure, you should go on vacation together. Definitely.
Sounds like a safe idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sound decision. In early 2008, Travis told PPL that Jodi would join him for a work trip to Mexico. I wish I had work trips to Mexico. on June 15th, but by April he had changed his travel companion to another female friend. Burn.
Good choice.
What, you didn't want your stalker to come with you to Mexico? So weird.
It could have been a different story if he did bring her, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Might be the
different
opposite.
location, anyway. At this point, Jodi moved back to her grandparents' home. In May 2008, a burglary occurred there, and among the missing objects was a .25 caliber automatic Colt pistol. This is worth mentioning because it was never recovered, and a shell casing from a spent .25 caliber round was found near Travis's body at the murder scene. What an odd coincidence.
Never would have guessed.
Mm-hmm. On June 2nd, 2008, Jodi decided to take a road trip. Theme. To go see Travis. Travis welcomed this visit in spite of having called her, quote, sociopath and, quote, worst thing that has ever happened to me just days before. He also told numerous friends that he was afraid of her.
He just wanted to get laid.
Yeah. I want to be super clear here. Neither of us is victim blaming or anything, but I just don't understand the extreme. Like, I'm afraid of you, but you should definitely come over to my house. Whatever.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't matter. He didn't deserve what he got.
Hell no.
So here's the road trip timeline, and I edited some things out and approximated some of the times in the interest of brevity and so that I don't bore you all to tears. June 2nd, Jodi called Travis 4 times between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., and Travis called Jodi twice between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., and then Jodi called Travis at 4:03 a.m. 5:39, Jodi bought $15 worth of gas at Shell Food Mart in Siskiyou, California. I didn't look at any of the pronunciations for any of these places I'm saying.
Just say it as bad
so
as you
whatever.
can, then.
At 8:04 a.m., Jodi rented a white car. The rental agent testified Jodi had blonde hair at the time. She refused the first car he offered her because it was red. She wanted a car that wouldn't stand out. The car was to be returned on Friday, June 6th, around 8 a.m. June 3rd, Jodi made 3 deposits to different accounts at a bank in Monterey, California. Jodi called Travis twice between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Jodi stopped by her ex-boyfriend Daryl Brewer's house in Monterey, California to borrow 2 gas cans. Jodi says they were needed because it was a long road trip, but experts said that she may have been trying to cover her tracks as there would be no gas transactions in Arizona. 3:22 p.m., Jodi goes shopping at a Walmart in Salinas, California, and buys 2 facial cleansers and 3 unidentified items. The sale total was $43.90, and she paid cash. Jodi calls Travis twice between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. Between 8:42 and 8:46, Jodi makes 2 gas purchases. The first is $34.61, and the second is prepaid purchase for $40. 9 or 10 p.m., Jodi calls Ryan Burns, a love interest, to tell him she is coming to Utah. He expected her to arrive around 9 a.m. the next morning. June 4th. Basically, all the notes on this started with Jodi says, and the repetition was really irritating. So please just know that the following is based on what Jodi said and not based on fact 100% of the time. Because I couldn't confirm all the statements that she made. Okay. So Jodi arrives at Travis's at 4 a.m. and Travis is awake and waiting for her while watching YouTube videos. Police confirmed that his computer was in use at this time. Travis wanted to have sex, but she was tired, so they just went to bed. At 1 p.m. they woke up and had sex. They also took nude photos of each other in his bedroom before moving on to his home office to have rough sex. It all sounds so devoted Mormon, doesn't it?
100%.
Listeners, please don't misunderstand. I'm not judging them for the photos or any of their kinks. It's the hypocrisy that bothers me. In general, while I was doing the research, I was going to say I was surprised, but I wish I had been surprised about how much attention was focused on the sex in this case. Like, it was super sensationalized, and it was very much like, oh, Travis wanted sex because he's a man, but Jodi wanted sex because she's a whore, and, like, what's wrong with her? She's obviously... There's something obviously wrong with her, and it's just like, what the hell?
Just more hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, society is stupid. Anyway, 5:22 p.m., the first of a now infamous series of 19 pictures is taken of Travis in the shower, and the times are going to get real specific now. So at 5:29 and 20 seconds p.m., Jodi snapped a photo of Travis just minutes before he died. 5:30, 30 seconds, an accidental photo of Travis's lower half is taken. 5:31 and 14 seconds, this photo shows the ceiling of Travis's bathroom. The defense attorney, Jennifer Wilmot, says this was a photo taken when Jodi dropped the camera accidentally. 5:32 and 16 seconds, there is a picture of Travis on the ground, bleeding, and what looks like Jodi's leg and foot. 5:33 and 32 seconds, there is a picture of blood on the baseboards. That's 1 minute and 45 seconds from alive to gushing blood on the bathroom floor. 10:30 p.m., Jodi calls Ryan to say that she is on her way and is late because she got lost. Between 11:30 p.m. and midnight, Jodi calls Travis 3 times. June 5th, Jodi arrived at Ryan's between 10 and 11 a.m. When she arrived, she had dark brown hair. Her fingers were cut and bandaged. She claimed this happened while working at Margaritaville in Eureka. I'm guessing it's Eureka. It's spelled Y-R-E-K-A. Yreka. I don't know. There is no Margaritaville in Eureka. Yreka, whatever it is. 12 p.m., Ryan and Jodi go to a business meeting in separate cars. She gets pulled over en route because her license plate is upside down, but gets off with a warning. After the meeting, they go to Ryan's to watch a movie and make out. 7 p.m., they go to another meeting in separate cars. Jodi gives her friend Leslie Udy a ride to dinner after the meeting. In the car, they discuss Jodi's breakup with Travis. Super
Quote,
awkward.
unquote.
Super awkward. 11 p.m., they go back to Ryan's house to nap. Who's taking a nap at 11 p.m.?
Well, they seem to have weird sleeping patterns.
I know, like, they're all nurses or something. According to Ryan, they wake up and make out, but stop before actually having sex. At some point after midnight, Jodi leaves Ryan's house. June 6th. In Salt Lake City, Utah, between 3:57 and 4:05 a.m., Jodi makes 2 gas purchases. The first is $41.18 and the second is $36.98. In Winnemucca, Nevada, at an unknown time, Jodi spends $49.91 on gas at a Flying J Travel Plaza. In Sparks, Nevada, at 10:34 a.m., Jodi buys an unknown amount of gas at the 7-Eleven. She also makes 2 purchases at an In-N-Out Burger at 10:38 and 10:43. June 7th, in Redding, California, at 12:20 p.m., Jodi buys gas. At 1:08, Jodi finally returns her rental car, and at some point she had extended the rental to 9:30 a.m. on June 7th. The rental agent testified that the car appeared to have, quote, Kool-Aid stains on the passenger seat and the back seat. These were not tested as the car was cleaned and detailed before police looked at it.
Oh, of course.
And the floor mats were gone. Not weird at all.
No. I
guess whoever stole the gun from her grandparents' house also stole the car mats, but it definitely wasn't her. Definitely not her. So in total, Jodi traveled 2,834 miles. June 9th, concerned friends went to Travis's house as they were not able to reach him by phone. Initially, his roommates said he was out of town. Once they found the key to the master bedroom, his friends entered and found large pools of blood in the hallway leading to the bathroom where his body was discovered in the shower. Here's a portion of the 911 call they then made.
Has he been threatened by anyone recently?
Yes, he has. Okay. He has an ex-girlfriend that's been bothering him and following him and slashing tires and things like that.
And do you know the ex-girlfriend's name?
Do you remember? Yeah. What's his ex-girlfriend's name? Ask Taylor.
And do you know if he's ever reported it to the police?
Her name is Jodi. I don't know if he's ever reported. Hold on.
Okay, but this was never heard by the jury, and I tried to find out why they wouldn't have played that for the jury, but, yeah, I couldn't find it.
Good lawyer trick, probably.
Yeah, like, it's hearsay, because they're talking about what somebody else said. You all know what hearsay is, it's fine. On July 9th, Jodi was indicted by a grand jury in Maricopa County for first-degree murder. She was arrested on July 15th and extradited to Arizona on September 5th. She pled not guilty on September 11th. Originally, she told police that she had not been in Mesa on the day of the murder and had not seen Travis since March 2007. Well, that's odd because while investigating the scene, detectives found a bloody palm print with her and Travis's DNA. Police also found Travis's recently purchased digital camera damaged in the washing machine. They were able to recover the aforementioned deleted images, complete with timestamp. The next story she came up with was that two intruders had broken into Travis's home, murdering him and attacking her. Why didn't she call the police? Because she's seen The Sopranos and was scared the intruders would come after her. That's actually what she said.
Oh, God.
I've seen The Sopranos. Oh, my God.
Yeah, she's nuts.
2 years after her arrest, Jodi told police that she killed Travis in self-defense, claiming that she had been a victim of domestic violence. This is the story that she eventually stuck with, and I guess it took her 2 years to come up with that and then convince herself that that's what really happened. So I'm just going to show you a couple pictures. So this is what she looked like before the trial.
Yeah, and these will be on the blog.
Yeah. And this is what she looked like during the trial. And she was specifically asked, what's with the drastic change in your appearance? And she's like, well, there's no Clairol in jail. Okay.
Yeah, she's like all dolled up in the first picture and then trying to look like a librarian or something.
Obviously, she's like, I hate this term, but blonde bombshell before, and in her trial, she's like, you know, dark brown hair and glasses. Like, does she even need the glasses? I don't know, it doesn't matter, but... And acted completely different as well, because she was really outgoing before, and then in the trial, she was super meek. And it's just like... such a show. I get, not that that's new. I mean, I get that that is a thing that I'm sure they're encouraged to do by their defense attorneys and everything, but it just seemed a lot. Jodi took the stand February 14th, 2013. On her second day on the stand, she said that her sex life with Travis included oral and anal sex. She said that the anal sex was painful for her the first time and that she considered these forms of sex to be real sex, but Travis did not, as they were technically not against Mormon rules. That seems real convenient. Like, anal sex between a man and a woman is not against the Mormon rules, but anal sex between two men is.
Yes, of course.
That's super convenient. So,
but again, that's not just Mormonism.
No. I'm not trashing on Mormonism. Just like
Mormon, I think,
just like organized religion in general is not my favorite thing. Yeah. But whatever.
They're less progressive than some, for sure. The Mormon Church.
Yeah.
Much like the Catholic Church.
Yeah. So Jodi said that they eventually had intercourse, but it was a lot less often. A phone sex tape was played while she was on the stand. Here's a clip. Just kidding. It was way too awkward to listen to even once, but if you really want to hear it, feel free to Google it. It's
We can always
really
link to
easy to
it.
find. It was honestly just the worst. Like, it's not my cup of tea. I don't want to hear it. And I can't believe that she was on the stand and they were playing this in the courtroom and it was on TV. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know how they got away with that.
Oh my god. No, thank you. On the tape, Travis said he wanted to zip tie Jodi to a tree and have anal sex with her while she was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know what the hell the point was of playing this. Like, what was the evidence here?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? They really, I just think they did it to sensationalize an already excessively public case. It was just like such a circus.
I mean, if she wasn't such a... Obviously, it sounds like a terrible person. I think it's like a character assassination, but you don't need to do that with her.
No. No. So Jodi later testified that Travis had secretly found young boys and girls sexually attractive, and that she tried to help him with these urges. She also testified that the relationship became increasingly physical and emotionally abusive. She said that Travis shook her while saying, quote, "I'm fucking sick of you," and then body slammed her onto the floor at the foot of his bed. She goes on, but this is just some of the unsubstantiated mud that she would sling during her 18 days on the stand, which is just incredible. That's an incredible amount of time to be on the stand.
Yeah, for sure.
So by the time she finished telling her self-defense story, her credibility was already pretty shot because of the two previous versions and because of the massive inconsistencies in her timeline. So here is what Jodi claims happened in the 62 seconds between the picture of her accidentally dropping the camera and the picture of Travis's bloody body on the bathroom floor. Jodi drops the camera. Travis gets mad and lunges at her. He body slams her. She gets up and runs. Not knowing where to run, she ends up in his bedroom. She remembers there's a gun on the top shelf in his closet. She grabs it and goes back to the bathroom. She points the gun at Travis, who's lunging at her like a linebacker. The gun accidentally fires, shooting Travis in the forehead just above his eye. They both fall to the ground. They both get back up. Jodi runs with Travis in pursuit. Jodi finds a knife, stabs Travis 27 to 29 times, slits his throat from ear to ear, drags the body back to the bathroom. And all this happened in 62 seconds.
Damn. It's impressive.
And how can you call that self-defense?
Self-defense could be the one shot. It could be a one stab. But multiple stabs, that's not self-defense.
Like, unless you're fighting off a zombie or something,
yeah,
it's too much.
Or maybe someone on bath salts, but come on.
Yeah. So in closing arguments, the defense argued that the premeditation theory didn't make sense because none of it looked planned. It looks like she just snapped. The prosecution argues that there was no evidence that he ever laid a hand on her. Quote, "There was no way to appease this woman who just wouldn't leave him alone." Once again, I'm not victim blaming here, but what I don't understand is for each of them to be talking about the other one and saying that they're so horrible to one another, then it's just like, why not just stay apart? And I get that it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
But what the hell happened? Like, how do you go from having sex for hours to slaughtering someone that you apparently love? Like, something must have happened, and she's never said, like, this was the trigger, or, you know what I mean?
Something snapped, or maybe she was just already snapped. I mean, she sounds like a bit of a crazy person.
Yeah, well, and there was a lot of discussion in the trial about that, about, like, is she crazy, or, I mean, obviously they didn't say crazy, and I probably shouldn't be saying it either, but it was like, each side was just like, going back and forth about what the diagnosis was, and it was just a lot of, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong. So I didn't include a lot of that. I didn't include it here, really, because it was just a lot of canceling each other out, and who knows what to believe, really, if she could just be putting on a show, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So on May 7th, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, Jodi was found guilty of first-degree murder. 5 jurors found her guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, and 7 jurors found her guilty of both first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder. People outside the courtroom cheered. The aggravation phase of the trial started on May 15th, 2013. Prosecution was required to convince the jury that the murder was cruel, heinous, or depraved in order for them to determine eligibility for the death penalty. The only witness was the medical examiner, Kevin Horn. He found that Travis had sustained 27 to 29 stab wounds, his throat had been slit, and a gunshot wound to his head. He had testified earlier that Travis's jugular vein, common carotid artery, and trachea had been slashed, and that Travis had defensive wounds on his hands. He further testified that Travis may have been dead at the time the gunshot was inflicted. After less than 3 hours of consideration, the jury determined that Jodi was eligible for the death penalty. Why did that take 3 hours?
I'm not sure. Although, I'm not even a fan of the death penalty, so...
The penalty phase began the following day on May 16th. Prosecutors called Travis's family members to offer victim impact statements to convince the jury that Jodi deserved a death sentence. On May 21st, Jodi offered an allocution during which she pleaded for a life sentence. She acknowledged that her plea for life was a reversal of remarks she made to a TV reporter shortly after her conviction when she said that she preferred the death penalty, claiming that she changed her mind because she didn't want to further upset her family. Bit late.
Yeah, definitely a little bit late.
Yep. 1 gunshot and 29 stab wounds too late. She later did an interview with ABC News that I loved. Here's a clip.
In your final statement today, you talked about all sorts of things you might be able to do in prison. Teach other prisoners Spanish, donate more of your hair, start a recycling program. Do you know how trivial that sounded in the face of what you did?
Well, there isn't a whole lot that I know about prison. And these are only things that I'm able to ascertain from having never been there. So I believe that when I get there, I will find ways, better ways to contribute and pay back.
But can't you grow out your hair on death row and donate it?
Yeah, it'll be less wigs if I get executed. I mean, I know that sounds trivial.
It does.
That's the only way that I can contribute. I'm limited. I'm going off to prison. I can't, there are so many things that I'm no longer going to do. So in a sense, I was grasping at straws, but these are things that I can do. And at this point, that's what I'm holding on to.
Okay. It'll be less wigs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just what they need, right?
Yeah. Okay, I really recommend this video, actually, and we're going to put a link on the blog for it, because Ryan Owens is so clearly annoyed by her, and I just love that he's calling her on her shit, like, every chance, and it's amazing. It's not a part of the clip that I played, but she later says, like, at the end of the interview, she later says, "Oh, I didn't realize you were such a hater." And it's just perfect. It's like, yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
In late January 2013, artwork drawn by Jodi began selling on eBay. The seller was her brother, and he claimed that the profits went towards covering the family's travel expenses to the trial and better food for Jodi while she was in jail. Fuck you. Better food.
Yeah.
What about the amazing programs she was going to start while in jail? Shouldn't the funds go to those? You could be buying books to help teach people Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So on May 23rd, there was a hung jury, which prompted the judge to declare a mistrial for the sentencing phase. The jury had reached an 8-4 decision in favor of the death penalty, and afterwards the jury foreman stated that her 18 days on the stand hurt her, as there was so many contradicting stories. October 21st, 2013, Jodi's sentencing retrial began. opening statements, an evidence hearing, etc. After a holiday break, the retrial resumed January 2014. Jury deliberation began February 12th, and on March 2nd, the jury informed the judge that they were deadlocked. Jodi's attorneys requested a mistrial, which was denied. The judge provided additional instructions and ordered them to resume deliberations. On March 5th, the judge declared another mistrial because the jurors were deadlocked at an 11-1 vote in favor of the death penalty. Sentencing was scheduled for April 7th. The judge could sentence Jodi to life imprisonment without parole or with the possibility of parole after 25 years. On April 13th, she sentenced Jodi to life imprisonment without parole. In an interview on April 8th, Jodi's attorneys discussed the social media frenzy death threats she received and stated that she believed that Jodi testified truthfully.
She should be disbarred then.
And it's just like completely baffles me. Because if self-defense was what really happened, then why the other two stories? This attorney must be like the most naive lawyer practicing.
Yeah, for sure.
So Jodi was being totally honest on the stand, and also pigs fly out of my butt when I fart. Did you believe that one too?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Sure they weren't unicorns?
Yeah. In June 2014, following a restitution hearing, Jodi was ordered to pay more than $32,000 to Travis's siblings. Jodi's attorney stated that this was about 1/3 of the money requested. If she's selling her art on eBay, that's where that money goes. You don't get better food.
No.
You've got bills to pay. Okay, eat the crappy food. You deserve it.
Yeah. You shouldn't even be allowed to profit off
No.
of artwork and stuff as a prisoner.
No, totally. And, like, really, you shouldn't be able to buy better food. That's not fair. So people who have money get good food and people who don't get crap? Like,
Yeah.
That's not fair.
No, not at all.
So-
Sounds like the world, though.
I know. It's depressing. More beer. As of March 5th, 2015, Jodi's trials cost an estimated $3 million. Unfortunately, she didn't stop there. She's also filed an appeal claiming that she didn't get a fair trial because of the circus-like atmosphere, which is pretty fucking rich considering how many interviews she did and how she clearly wanted the attention for every single one of those interviews. And if you watch the clips where the recording actually started before she knows it's recording, she's like doing her makeup and making sure her hair's perfect, and she wanted every bit of that circus. And it's just ridiculous that now she's trying to file an appeal for exactly what she was playing into.
I mean, that could have been a strategy, too, though.
Yeah, good point. She also sued her lead defense attorney for writing a tell-all book about the case. I read a bit about this tell-all book that he wrote, and he really hated her a lot. Like, he tried to
understand why.
He tried to get out of the case. I think it, like, 3 times he filed, like, to get dismissed as her lawyer. So what I thought was weird about this case, I mean, there's lots of things, but for me, what was weird about it was that there was a wealth of information on the case to the point where it was compared media-wise to the O.J. Simpson trial. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, neither have I.
Like, until I was researching, like, road trip as a theme for this episode, never heard of her. And I mentioned that to a friend at work, and she has no idea how I could have never heard of her, considering the number of true crime podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no,
never heard of her.
Now we'll both hear all about her multiple times.
That's how it works, right? Anyway, that's what I have on Jodi Arias.
Sounds like it's a good thing she's in prison.
Yeah, and never getting out.
Yes. I'm okay with her not getting the death penalty, though, but
Yeah.
I'm glad she's not getting out.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad she's not getting out. I don't know how I feel about the death penalty. I just don't know.
I don't know. Prisons are too much, especially in the States, it's too much about making profit and...
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all.
It's too much of a messed up system, and people can be on death row for 30 years and turn out to be innocent, so...
Yeah, that's obviously the biggest reason that I'm not like, hey, go death penalty because it's such a skewed system, and it's just not in your favor if you're not white and not rich.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But the rich part's not as important. First off,
Yeah.
white people get off a lot more.
What a bunch of bullshit.
Yep.
The end.
We've moved inside because the neighbors upstairs are quite loud today.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be a little less noisy. What year did your story take place? Was it 2008?
Yeah, the murder was 2008.
2008. A month after that murder, this story took place, same year.
Mm-hmm. Amazing,
This
unplanned.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. This was the murder of Tim McLean on a Greyhound bus in Manitoba. To pair this, I got the beer. It's from a new brewery in Winnipeg called Trans-Canada Brewing. So not only is it pairing with where the crime happened, it's named after the Trans-Canada Highway, the brewery, which is a highway that goes all the way across the country. This murder didn't take place on that highway, but it's still kind of fitting.
Yep.
So this is the Arrow IPA, 6.8% alcohol, 60 IBU. It says that it's a citrusy IPA. It's hop forward, well balanced, dry hopped with Amarillo hops for mouth-watering aromas of grapefruit and citrus fruit. This one's really dark for an IPA. What color would you say that is?
Cloudy peach, but darker, like the dark part of a peach. Also, it's dark in here.
Yeah, it is dark in here. Yeah, it's kind of, like you said, like a peach. And it's got sort of a slightly off-white head. It does kind of smell like grapefruit.
Yeah.
Got kind of a malty backbone in there, but it's not super aggressive at all.
The scent is like triggering a memory, but not strong enough for me to connect it solidly. So I'm just like, what is that?
Son of a... Yeah, the flavor, there is grapefruit rind. It's kind of earthy, kind of herbal. Not too much malt coming through. It's not super bitter like a lot of West Coast IPAs or anything. It's not bad.
So you said grapefruit rind.
Yeah. So it's more like the peel, the
Like
white part and everything.
Yeah. But how are you telling the difference?
Well, it's got kind of that just straight grapefruit flavor there, but then it's also got more of that kind of pithy, dry, kind of rindy flavor. Like if you bit into a grapefruit rind or a orange rind or whatever.
Like when there's too much of the white stuff on an orange.
Definitely.
I'm like super particular, so I'm that person that will spend a half an hour to peel all that stuff off, which is probably why I don't recognize the taste differential.
Very well could be, yeah. But yeah, it's not bad. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite IPA, but I'm more of a fan of a really West Coast IPA or the really juicy New England IPA that's coming out nowadays. Solid beer.
What do you mean by West Coast IPA?
They're usually either like really citrusy and bitter, or they can have like a really big pine backbone in it. They kind of go between a fruity flavor and just like earthy and pine and bitterness, but they're usually quite bitter. Whereas stuff coming out of the East Coast nowadays is like just huge fruit forward and very little bitterness. This is kind of in the middle. It's a little more than an English IPA, but it does because it doesn't have the bitterness of the West Coast IPA.
Right.
But it's a little more bitter than you'd get in English. It's not bad.
I'm not partial to IPAs actually because of the bitter. I like fruits, sours.
Yeah.
And like porters and stouts. I like, which I used to hate. Like when I was younger, I never had them. My friend Hillary and I were beer opposites. We joked about it a lot, but I get it now because they're delicious.
Yeah. You just, taste change.
Yeah.
It only feels fitting that my story happened 10 years ago in July, and it's July right now, as Greyhound just announced they are shutting down all service to Western Canada, and this happened on a Greyhound bus in Canada.
Yeah.
In the West. Mm-hmm. So
it's so weird.
It's so weird that it's for the 10th anniversary of this murder, they're shutting down service.
Yeah. It's weird that they're shutting down service at all. I mean, it is more expensive than I think it should be, but I'm super cheap, so...
Well, it's bizarre, too, because...
But it's weird to me, because it was like, when I was in college, if I had to go anywhere, it was taking the bus for hours and hours, but...
And we take Greyhound in the winter sometimes to go to the Okanagan.
Yeah, nobody wants to drive through that.
Yeah, the buses are always packed. They have like 5 buses going to the same destination. There are areas in the whole west of Canada that aren't that busy for the buses, but there's really busy routes. It's amazing they're pulling out for everything and not just shutting down parts of it.
Yeah. It just seems like a big sweeping decision, and I mean, obviously I'm not a business major or anything, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But anywho.
It feels like the first step to pull out of Canada altogether, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Pull out of the West and then pull out of the major population centers in Quebec and Ontario later.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We will see. All right, but on July 30th, 2008, Tim McLean was headed home to Manitoba from a fair he was working at in Edmonton, Alberta. He was only 22 years old. He was a son, a father, a brother, and an uncle. So he had lots of family, lots of people that were looking forward to seeing him when he got home.
Mm-hmm.
So he got onto bus 1170 to Winnipeg, and it headed to Manitoba via the Yellowhead Highway through the province of Saskatchewan. It goes Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, for people that don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Tim sat near the back of the bus, back near the toilet. I don't know why you'd sit back there, but
I don't.
Sometimes you just have
Not
to.
on a long trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard pass.
Very hard pass.
Yeah.
But almost 7 hours after the bus trip began, a new passenger boarded the bus in Erickson, Manitoba. The new passenger was a tall man in his 40s named Vince Lee. He was tall, shaved head, sunglasses. He started the trip out at the very front of the bus. After a scheduled stop, though, he moved to a seat beside Tim, which is, kind of odd. If you already had a seat, usually on the Greyhound, you kind of pick a seat and you just stay there for your whole trip.
Yeah, especially if you're not sitting beside anybody.
Yeah, and if you're not with someone.
Yeah.
Tim fell asleep with his headphones on. If I remember right, he was listening to a little bit loud metal music, but I don't remember exactly. It didn't come up in the research I was doing. But he fell asleep with the headphones on. There was little acknowledgement to Vince Lee when he sat down there. It was just kind of, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But only minutes after Tim fell asleep, Vince pulled a large hunting knife out, and he proceeded to stab Tim in the neck and chest over and over again.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Tim woke up instantly and tried to fight back while screaming, but he was no match for Vince because he was a big guy.
Plus, he'd already been stabbed how many times?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, one witness said he was stabbed close to 60 times.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And remember, they've never met.
Yeah.
Yeah, once the bus driver realized what was going on, which didn't take very long, he pulled the bus over, and the driver and all the passengers exited the bus as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But stabbing Tim was not the end of the ordeal, though. Vince decapitated Tim with his large knife, cut his head off. Yeah, no, what the actual fuck?
Yeah, you mentioned you were doing this story, and I intentionally avoided everything, because I remember reading about it 10 years ago, but... Yeah, keep it coming.
As this is all going on, the bus driver and two passengers tried to save Tim, just before he was decapitated, but Vince ran at them and chased them off the bus, slashing them with his knife. I don't think either or any of them were hit, but
yeah,
it's definitely
even
get
still,
the hell off the bus.
You don't need to get slashed to make a run for it.
Yeah, exactly. But he didn't run to chase after these guys empty-handed. He dropped Tim's head right near the bus door and then headed back to the body.
Wow.
Vince still wasn't done, though. He started cutting off pieces of Tim's flesh and eating it. Yeah, it's disgusting.
No.
The attack started sometime after 7 p.m., and by 8:30, the RCMP in Portage La Prairie received a report of the stabbing on the Greyhound bus. A passenger, the bus driver, and a truck driver that had seen what was going on kept Vince on the bus using a crowbar and a hammer that the truck driver had on his truck. Cool. They didn't want him getting away
Obviously.
Or hurting anyone else.
Yep.
So while this is all happening, all the passengers were just huddled around on the side of the road, some crying, some throwing up, and just some completely in shock of what was happening, which is understandable.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up.
What just popped into my head, which is just horrible but factual, is if this happened now, half those people would be taping that with their cell phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is disgusting, but it's true. Be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Totally what would happen.
Vince had attempted to flee with the bus, but luckily the bus driver had activated an immobilizer. Sounds like there's a mobilizer at the back of the bus or something, or there was at the time.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. I've never heard of that. But
yeah, neither did I.
Smart bus driver. Way to go, in such a situation to still be so logic-minded.
Yeah, which can't be easy.
No.
So by 9 p.m., the police were in a full-out standoff with Vince, with a special negotiator and a heavily armed tactical unit. think a SWAT team.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, at this point, the passengers were removed from the scene and interviewed by the Brandon police. Vince paced the aisle of the bus back and forth, and every once in a while would go back and defile the corpse a little more. The police officers heard Vince state, "I have to stay on the bus forever."
Okay.
Yeah, kind of odd. The next day at 1:30 a.m., he tried to escape from the bus by smashing a window out and jumping out, but he was arrested soon after.
What happened to forever?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was forever.
Probably seemed like forever, that close to a
Well,
dead body.
I mean, from like 9 p.m. or whatever, 9:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m., kind of feels like forever, I'm sure.
That's not even 12 hours, you big baby.
Exactly. Vince Lee was shot by tasers twice before he was handcuffed and placed in a cruiser.
No,
you know this
thank
is
you.
Canada.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
He was Asian
love
and he
it.
was shot with a taser.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
Non-lethal.
The victim's body was then removed from the bus, and portions were packaged up in plastic bags, including his ear, nose, and tongue. Oh, and they were found in Vince's pockets.
Whoa.
He was taking a snack for later, I think.
It's like trail mix.
Yeah. Very,
Take
very
it
fucked
on
up
the
trail
road.
mix.
Ew. That's too much protein.
Yeah. Fucked up is they never found his heart or his eyes.
Oh.
So they assumed that Vince ate both. Or all three, I guess I should say.
Chewy. Too chewy. Oh.
By 10 a.m., the passengers had all been transported to a local store to replace their clothes, and a local Greyhound representative made sure they got new clothes. And then they arrived back to their families in Winnipeg by 3:30 p.m. that next day.
Wow.
I'm sure it didn't end there for them, though.
Oh my god, no. I mean, that's just like the beginning of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, yeah. No, it's
That's,
totally fucked up.
Oh my god.
So let's get kind of into the background a little bit of Vince Lee. Or
Yeah.
Vincent Lee. He was born in Danang, Liaoning, China on April 1968. He graduated in 1992 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in computers back in China.
Mm-hmm.
He worked from 1994 to 1998 as a computer software engineer back in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
So he immigrated to Canada on June 11th, 2001. And on November 7th, 2006, Vince Lee became a Canadian citizen. Took him quite a few years. It's not an easy process.
No.
Now, it doesn't seem that his time in Canada started easily, as he was hospitalized after an incident with Ontario Provincial Police Officer in either 2003 or 2004. And after this incident, he was examined by a psychologist. Now, there was obviously something going on in his life already.
Yeah. And it didn't say what, it just said incident.
Yeah, I just said an incident, yeah.
I mean, it's not always easy to find that information.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So Vince worked in Winnipeg at menial jobs at a Grant Memorial Church to support his wife for 6 months. Pastor Tom Castor stated he seemed to like his job, even with the language barrier that he faced with other members of the church, because he really didn't know English. He hadn't really put in the time yet to learn English.
Okay.
He seemed really frustrated because he couldn't communicate, but he seemed to enjoy his job. So he quit that job in the spring of 2005 and worked as a forklift driver in Winnipeg, and his wife worked as a server at a restaurant. Then in 2006, Vince left for Edmonton, Alberta, while leaving his wife back in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And then sometime later, she ended up joining him in Edmonton. He moved around between jobs at fast food restaurants, newspaper delivery, and at Walmart. So only 4 weeks before the murder on the Greyhound, he was fired from Walmart for a disagreement with other staff.
Okay.
And then shortly thereafter, he also asked for some time off from his delivery job to travel back to Winnipeg for a job interview. So Vince Lee was a sick man. He had an undiagnosed case of schizophrenia at this point, which is surprising. With seeing the psychologist and everything earlier,
Yeah.
you'd think they might have been able to figure out what his issues were, but stayed
Yeah.
undiagnosed. So on
Especially something like that, sorry.
No worries. On July 29th, Vince began his trip to Winnipeg on the Greyhound, getting off the bus around 6 p.m. in Erickson, Manitoba. There was all kinds of witnesses that said that they saw him sleeping on a bench near a grocery store. They stayed there all night, and he was spotted by a witness at 3 a.m. bolt upright on the bench. Yeah, it was just bizarre.
Must have been going through an episode.
Yeah, definitely. The next morning, Vince sold off his brand new laptop to a 15-year-old that was passing by for $60. He was asking for more, but he ended up selling it for $60.
Wow.
Unfortunately for that kid, the laptop was later seized by the RCMP.
Yeah.
But a businessman in the area donated a laptop to this kid just for being honest and getting that laptop back.
Go Canada.
Our witness of the attack, Garnett Caton, said that Vince appeared to be oblivious to others when he was undertaking this attack. He stated that he was calm, with no rage, and acted like a robot, which kind of all goes back into that diagnosis.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the trial. So Vince Lee refused to hire a lawyer.
Of course he did. Of course
They always do.
Yeah.
But those that represented him stated that he could not be held accountable due to untreated schizophrenia, and the judge agreed.
Yeah. Well, good.
On March 3rd, 2009, Vince Lee pled not criminally responsible to the murder.
That makes sense.
This plea admitted the offense occurred, but claimed that he was not of sound mind. And I can't agree with that part.
Mm-hmm.
No one's of sound mind when they're cutting someone's head off and eating parts of their body. So
well, and it's not like something happened. I think that...
Yeah, he just snapped.
Not to be gross, but obviously cannibalism is disgusting. But he was literally just sitting there asleep.
Yeah. So the psychiatrist that was treating Vince claimed that Vince said that he performed the attack because God told him to kill McLean because he was a force of evil.
Okay.
He also claimed to people that God had chosen him to vanquish aliens.
Interesting.
Yeah. He claimed that he understood God had wanted him to kill Tim McLean, as he was an alien God had warned him about. So he thought he was doing everyone a service by killing him. You know, he's saving the Earth from killing aliens.
But why is he eating aliens?
Yeah.
Which has got a big eye roll from Mike.
Because it's all bullshit.
Well, I mean, messages in your head from God, that's not uncommon for schizophrenia, but the logic behind eating an alien, you lost me on that one.
And also, if your God tells you to kill someone, change gods.
Yeah.
Was he supposed to be a loving God or something?
Yeah.
I call bullshit. So the judge, John Scurfield, we'll say, accepted the diagnosis and ruled Lee was not criminally responsible and remanded him to Selkirk Mental Health Center for 1 year so he could be evaluated.
Okay. That takes a year, I guess. I don't...
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court of Canada ruled in 1999 that a review board must order an absolute discharge of a person if a person doesn't pose a significant threat to public safety, just as a note.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So by
Can't
June...
just keep someone in there forever if they're of no risk of reharming.
Yeah. By June 3rd, 2010, Vince Lee was granted supervised outdoor walks within his mental health facility.
Nope. That's not a good idea.
Oh, just wait.
No.
On May 30th, 2011, he was responding well to treatment and was granted even more freedoms, and they were slowly granted over several months. May 17th, 2012, it was reported that Vince was granted temporary passes to allow him out of the mental health center to visit the town of Selkirk, or under the supervision of a nurse and peace officer.
This is 4 years after decapitating someone and eating their heart and eyeballs.
Yes.
Too soon. It's too soon.
Yeah. February 27th, 2015, Vince was granted unsupervised day passes to Winnipeg as long as he had a working cell phone on him.
That
doesn't make any
doesn't mean
sense.
You're going to answer it.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's like for GPS location purposes. I don't get it.
On May 8th, 2015, he was granted passes to a group home in the area of the clinic. So he was not even living in the clinic anymore. On February 2016, Vince Lee legally changed his name to Will Baker and was seeking to live independently outside of the group home. He got that right on February 26th.
That's ridiculous.
And then on February 10th, 2017, the Manitoba Criminal Code Review Board ordered Vince Lee to be granted an absolute discharge, and there are no restrictions to his independent living. None. He has no criminal record for this.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. So Tim McLean's family are still looking for answers. Their lives were shattered when their son was murdered, and Vince Lee was never held responsible. He spent years in a mental health institute and then out free.
Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, and he has a new name. Many of the passengers of this Greyhound bus never recovered from the attack. They suffered PTSD, and many cannot rid themselves from the sound of Tim screaming.
Well, how could you?
Yeah, it'd be shattering. And on July 17th, 2014, the responding officer, Corporal Ken Baker of the RCMP, committed suicide due to PTSD.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
I've got a little sound clip from Tim McLean's mom years later.
How do I feel about Vince Lee / Will Baker's quest for an absolute discharge with no conditions? I'm very concerned for the safety of the public because there is no legal requirement for this extremely mentally ill individual to treat his illness. Schizophrenia is lifelong and incurable. The psychiatric community states that they cannot predict the future behavior of any individual. The same community claims the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. I believe it's time for all people to take care of each other. I don't believe for 1 second that Will Baker poses no threat. He will be a risk to public safety for the rest of his life. What if he chooses to stop his medication again? In a nutshell, I don't believe that should be his choice to make anymore. A secure facility where he can continue to receive treatment for the rest of his natural life is where he belongs. Has everyone forgotten what he did to Timothy? How this murder has affected me personally, physically, mentally, financially, and emotionally has been devastating beyond description. I don't want another person to ever go through what I have been through these past 9 years. Shall we all just wait till it happens again? Shame on us all if we do. I will continue to state my case and say, no, I don't think so. Never completely free. Never. If I had my way, he'd remain in a facility. If he's going to be in the community, he at least needs to be under conditions. At least.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And wow, is she ever strong?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is years after.
But even still, to be talking on the subject of the brutal murder of your son. I mean, wow.
I couldn't have done that speech.
Yeah.
And it was not in a controlled environment. No. It was out in the open. It was on the street, this interview.
Yeah, wow.
We'll have links to that again, too, on the blog.
Moms are the best.
They can be, for sure. So personally, I cannot help but think this is a serious miscarriage of justice and an injustice to the family of Tim McLean. This man murdered, decapitated, and ate a man. And 8 years later, he is living free of any record because they decided he did not pose a significant threat to the safety of the public.
Yeah.
I call bullshit.
Total bullshit. Yeah.
I mean,
I can agree with the initial, not criminally responsible, but schizophrenia is not something that it's like, you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Here's the cure. You're fine now. It doesn't work like that.
No.
I mean, it's just what she said. What if he decides to just stop taking the medication because he feels like he's cured? And then what if he does it again?
Yeah,
that could happen.
Oh, it definitely could happen. Well, it won't happen on a Greyhound again.
Yeah. Yep. Watch out, Via Rail.
Yeah. So, yeah, if his treatment lapses, he could easily go right back to his mental health break and murder again.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Lee, or Will Baker now, even plans to visit his native China at some point. How is this a possibility? How is he going to be allowed to travel
Free
back
travel.
out of... Yeah.
Yep.
How is he allowed to leave? I had heard this case, and it bothered me deeply when I first heard it, and doing all the research just really pissed me off.
Yeah. I definitely didn't remember hearing about the punishment side of the case. I remember hearing about it, obviously. Everybody heard about it. But, wow, that's something else.
Sometimes justice isn't served.
Yeah.
Wasn't that uplifting?
Yeah. When you told me you were doing this story, it reminded me of a Greyhound experience that I had. Nothing like this, don't worry. But I was going to see my sister for our birthday, and my bus was like a half an hour late, so I was already stressed about catching the second bus. And then we were waiting forever in Toronto. It seemed like forever anyway. And the frickin' bus finally pulls up, and everyone that's waiting in the station goes, and we weren't allowed to leave the station. Like, there were police preventing us from leaving the station to get on the bus. And then they boarded the bus and, dragged this guy off the bus.
Oh, fun.
Just, screaming. I have no idea what the hell happened. But at least he wasn't on the bus when I was on the bus, I guess. And he didn't do anything to anybody on that bus.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It was intense, for sure. But
yeah, and I noticed after this case, the big bus stations like Vancouver put in protocols kind of like the airport, where they were checking your baggage They were looking for weapons or alcohol and stuff like that, so you couldn't carry one of those big knives on anymore. But it wasn't that thorough.
No.
And it didn't happen at any of the small bus stations.
Yeah.
It was just the big centers. So
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah, so if you hopped on to a bus, an hour down the road, you just hopped
Good to
right
go.
on.
Yeah.
So it's not really doing much, because I don't think he got on the bus on a big city. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's not right.
Nope. Can you do? So, I guess, hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you'll keep coming back. We now have a Twitter account, at Brew Crime, and we also have an email, brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com. So, drop us a line either way, and hope you enjoyed this. Cheers.
Comments, questions, compliments, we're open to
yeah,
hearing all of them.
Reviews on iTunes or anywhere that you can leave reviews, please do. It helps get the word out there.
Yeah, spread the word.
Thanks for listening. Brew Crime's intro was created using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. This has been a production of pacificbeerchat.com.